So I've been having the hardest time trying to make this video about whether or not I think that you, uh, the viewer, the consumer, should still buy the A7 III in 2021. And the short answer to that question is yes. Yes, I do believe that you should go out and buy the A7 III. I think that you should do it post haste for several reasons that we'll get into. But that's not really a question that I can answer because I never wanted this channel to be a channel where I try to convince people to buy things. I don't get paid for anything that I review or talk about on this channel. I am not even at the point where I'm making money off of these videos. So that was never the point of this channel. The point of this channel was always just to talk about the things that I use as a photographer and as an aspiring videographer, and then give my opinions on them and tell you guys what I love about them. And so that does bring me to the video today. I am going to tell you guys why, if I were buying a camera in 2021, if I would still buy the A7 III. The short answer is yes. Let's look at some B-roll. All right, so if this is your first time here on the channel, thank you for being here. I hope that you will stick around. I hope that you will subscribe. I hope that you will give this video a thumbs up, and I hope that you find some value in this video. And so let's get into it. This is the A7 III. This has been a trusty companion of mine for the last 2 years, but that's not the story here. The story is A7 III. It came out in 2018, so it's a 3-year-old camera right now. And when it came out, it set the world on fire. 24 megapixels, 4K video, across the frame, probably almost full frame. There wasn't a massive crop when you recorded in 4K. Literally, Sony put everything into this camera that they possibly could. Not the best of things, but like all the things that people wanted. They put it in this camera, and they sold it at a relatively cheap price, $2,000 for, at the time, the best hybrid camera on the market. And that is straight from the mouth of one Gerald Undone. I think what he said verbatim is that you couldn't find a camera on the market that would give you more value at the time of him reviewing the A7 III. And if you guys want to watch that video, I will link that video down in the comments, but don't watch that video yet. Stay here and watch this video till the end. And so what I want to do is I want to just kind of talk from experience and tell you guys the things that I love about this camera, and then the things that I don't like about this camera. And then I just wanted to say why I would buy this camera again in 2021 if I were buying my first kind of semi-professional camera. So let's get into the things that I don't like about this camera first, just because I feel like that's a good place to start. And then we'll get into the good stuff to end the video. So first of all, the ergonomics of this camera. At the time when I first got it, they weren't so bad because I didn't know any better. I had come from the A7, the very first A7, which had a terrible grip, was really small. And then I moved up to the A7 II. And so the A7 II was a great camera, but it was missing some really important things like a joystick on the back, and also The viewfinder wasn't very great, and then the grip was also not very great. And then the A7 III came along and it improved on a lot of those things. The joystick was there, but it's not the best joystick in the world because it's really small, and I know I talk about this in almost every video. I have large hands, and so that's one thing that I don't like about it. And then you have probably heard people talk about this a lot in all of the A7 III videos, but these doors for all of the ports are probably the worst designed doors in all of camera history. They flap around, they are very noisy, and it is literally been the bane of my existence trying to keep these doors from breaking and falling off. One of them is slightly damaged, and so I do try to be as careful as I possibly can out in the elements because it does affect the weather sealing. And so those are two things. Well, that's the first thing. The second thing is this grip is really small. I didn't really notice how small it was until I got my A7 IV that has a great grip on it. That has a good grip on it. Still not great, still small, but just handling this camera now in 2021, I can say if you are a person who has large hands like myself, it's just not the best ergonomics, especially when you are considering the competition to this camera. I have never held an EOS R, and I have never held a Nikon Z6 or Z7, but I can tell just from I have held a Canon 5D Mark IV, and if the grip is anything like the grip on that camera, then that is a lot to think about. The grip is just not great. Another thing that I don't like about this camera is the limitations in the video specs in 4K. And so when, again, back in 2019 when I first bought this camera, and video wasn't super important to me, 4K, the 4K 30 limit, the 8-bit color, those things weren't important to me. But as I continue to make more videos for this medium, and as I continue to move towards my videographer aspirations, I have come to realize that not being able to shoot 4K, at 120 or 60 frames per second even, is a major limitation. And also, the 8-bit color is just really it's not something that affects me directly right now. But if in 2021, if I am looking to future-proof myself in that department, then that is a limitation that I have to talk about if I'm talking about whether or not I would buy this camera. Not being able to shoot 8-bit, not being able to shoot in higher Kodak, and then not being able to shoot 4K at 120 frames per second. Those are definitely knocks against this camera. And then the last thing that I really don't like about this camera is this screen. The screen is dated. It was dated when it came out. It wasn't a great screen when the Sony A7 III came out. And then now with the screen that's on the Panasonic and the screen that is on the EOS R, it is really just a dated screen. And then one of the major issues that I have with this camera, and I think everybody who's used this camera has, is that the screen doesn't always match the exposure that you see in the final photo. So if you're looking at the screen and you're dialing in your exposure, it is going to be on the screen darker than the final photos. You'll get the photos in the Photoshop or Lightroom, and you'll notice that they are a tad bit brighter than you saw on the back of the screen. So that's kind of a huge deal, but there is a workaround, and it's in this EVF. this EVF isn't the best EVF on the market again in 2021. But if you're thinking about the A7 III and you're wondering, you know, how it stacks up, pretty good EVF. In fact, the EVF was the reason that I did move from the A7 II to the A7 III. It was like night and day. I remember the day that I went to the camera store, and that's actually how the salesman sold me on the A7 III, was by having me look through the EVF. Good EVF, the exposure is right. In fact, I think I have gotten to a point where I am always looking through the EVF to get my exposure dialed in, and things like that. So those are the things that I don't like about this camera. The ergonomics aren't great. These stupid flappy doors are just flappy and stupid. And then the screen is kind of a big deal. It's kind of a big deal. Listen, if this is going to be your first time using a Sony camera, or if this is your first time, or if you're moving, you know, from any other camera system, you've heard people talk about the menu. Let me tell you, the menu is not that hard. Once you put the time in to learn it, and once you set your custom buttons, then you will always, well, I don't want to say you. Once I learned the menu and once I set my custom buttons and I got this camera set up exactly the way I needed it to be able to shoot the things that I needed to shoot, then I almost never go into the menu anymore. Literally almost never. And so those are the downsides of this A7 III. Now, if you are looking for reasons to buy this camera, then let me tell you, the picture quality is amazing. And if you are wondering if you are going to miss out on picture quality if you don't buy one of the newer cameras of today, you're not going to do that. My main photo camera is a Sony A7R4, 61 megapixels, all the bells and whistles, and I am willing to bet that if I, you know, made a photo and printed them out and laid them out between, you know, laid them out in front of, you know, 100 people, 95 people wouldn't be able to tell the difference between the two photos. So the photo quality from this camera is amazing. Sensor still holds up today. Again, photo quality, I can't say enough. I'm gonna throw some sample photos up on the screen right now just so you guys can kind of get an idea of what it is here. Video quality, I am not the guy who is going to sell you on video specs. That's not my niche. That's not my bag. But I can tell you this: if you are here watching my videos on YouTube, I can say that the majority of my videos are recorded with the A7 III and an 85 millimeter 1.4 G Master. And if you guys enjoy the image that you have been seeing on this channel, know that it is recorded with the A7 III, and that's the image that you get. Being able to shoot 1080p and 120 frames per second, and then you throw that 1080p on a 4K timeline. Listen, I would be willing to bet that there's not a lot of people who is going to be able to point out and say, like, you know what, that's 1080p. In fact, I know that a lot of content creators are still recording a lot of their content in 1080p just because on YouTube, a lot of times you can't tell the difference. And so the 1080p on this A7 III, I think it's top notch. It may even be the best 1080p of any camera on the market now. And then being able to shoot in Super 35 mode on the A7 III is another kind of chef's kiss. So if you are shooting at 35 millimeters and you're out and you only got one lens, I mean, forget even 35 millimeters. If you are out and you're shooting and you got like a 24 to 70, just being able to kick this camera into Super 35 mode, get that extra reach at a 1.5 times crop, that essentially turns your camera from a 24 to 70 to about 24 to 105, I think maybe, or 24 to 95 or something like that. This is not a math channel. You guys can figure that out. But you can do that. You can shoot in Super 35 with little to no degradation of, that's a big word. You can do that with little to no loss in picture quality, in video quality. And so just being able to do that, in addition to being able to shoot in 4K, just gives you the type of versatility that becomes really, really important when you're out just doing the work. This camera, by all means, is a hybrid shooting camera. What else do I want to talk about? Oh, you guys are probably wondering about the autofocus system in this camera. So me and some friends, we got together a couple weeks ago, and we were just kind of working on how I was going to put this video together. A lot of it is footage that I've decided that I'm not going to use. But what I am going to show you right now is some screen recording from the Atomos of the autofocus in action. With shooting with Tess. What you guys are seeing right now is the autofocus just really sticking to her eye, even when she's turning around and spinning. When the autofocus can't find an eye, the face detection works really well. And on the back of the head, it switches into like area focus. And then once it can find the face, the face detection kicks back in. And then again, once it can find the eye detection kicks back in. So if you were wondering about the autofocusing system of the A7 III, listen, it was the birth of the eye autofocusing system that most cameras today are using, and in some cases still trying to catch up with. It is top notch. Not as fast as like a Sony A1, or not as great as like a Sony A7S III, but those cameras literally, or my A7 A7R4, those cameras, that focusing system is a cheat code. And this autofocusing system in this camera is no slouch. And so, and listen, I would bet the house on this autofocusing system. And so, yeah, so that's that. And then another thing that I did when me and my friends got together is Mel, who you guys saw in the video right here. She got her own studio recently, by the way. Mel shoots with a Nikon camera. And so what I had Mel do was kind of just shoot with the A7 III for the first time. And then I had her give me some of her thoughts on how she felt about the camera. And here they are.
So one of the biggest things that I noticed just shooting is that it comes so naturally to use because all of the features on the interface are the same as my camera. The ISO, the aperture, the shutter speed, it's all the same. So using it manually is super easy, which is one thing that I worry about whenever I've had to use other cameras in the past. It's great because oftentimes I'll shoot with other people on a job, and there are times that like we've had to hand our cameras off to each other, and it's so disorienting to try to like switch over. Most people I know shoot with Canon, and the interface on most Canon cameras it's totally different than mine. So I never shoot on automatic, and so that's just like something that makes a huge difference for me. The other huge thing is the weight. So I am not very strong, and so after, well within the day of shooting, my arms get super tired. But because this is so compact and so lightweight, it's like very easy. Doesn't take a lot of effort for me to use.
So just to finish out the video, I will just go over some things that you would miss out on if you bought an A7 III in 2021. Yeah, you're gonna miss out on the new menu system, but who cares, really? Like, really, who cares? You are going to miss out on 4K 120 and 60, but I can assure you, when you see the 120 and 60 frames per second and the 1080p that you get from this A7 III, I don't know that you'll miss it. The ability to crop in 4K at 120, yeah, you lose that. But I can say in the 2 years that I have been making videos, I have only just recently started cropping in 4K now as I become a better video shooter and storyteller. And so I don't think that you're gonna miss it. What else are you gonna miss out on? You might miss out on the 10-bit color. If you are someone who is proficient in post-production with color grading and stuff like that, shooting and exposing in log. But let me tell you this, this video that I am recording right now is colors coming straight out of the camera of the A7R4. There's no log. I don't do any color grading to these videos. I might add some contrast and I might change the saturation and maybe the warmth or coolness of the video, but I'm not doing a ton of color grading. And even that video that I made of Mel, the video that I made with Mel where we were talking about her new studio, that's not color graded at all. That is color straight out of the A7C, which shares the same sensor with this A7 III. So if color depth is important to you, then yeah, you will miss out on that 10-bit color, that 422 Kodak. If those things are important to you, then yeah, you will miss out on that. If shooting in things like ProRes and ProRes RAW are important to you, you will miss out on those. But I mean, for me, all of those things really aren't as important as just telling a good story, getting your thoughts across, and just being able to put together these type of videos. And so, yeah, 2021. Oh, and then also, if you're thinking about the A7S III, or a Canon EOS R or R5, or a Nikon Z6 or Z7, you will miss that flippy out screen, because this one only articulates up like this. It doesn't flip out like the new cameras, the A7S III. But I have an A7C and I kind of don't like it unless I'm vlogging and I need to look at myself. But other than that, it's not for me. So those are the things that you would miss out on. I would unequivocally run to buy this A7 III in 2021. And then on top of it, and here's the biggest reason. Here's the biggest reason that I would still buy this camera in 2021, because you have to ask yourself, is this the camera that I would buy over everything that Sony has to offer, everything that Canon has to offer, and everything that Nikon has to offer? Here's the biggest reason. It is the third-party lenses. And for a camera that I can get now for $1,600 probably, right? I can probably find a used one for $1,400 maybe, right? Do I want to have to, in the case of Canon and Nikon, do I want to have to spend north of $1,500 for the lens? And I know that you can adapt a lot of EF lenses to the Canon, and you can probably also adapt the F lenses to the Nikons. But I can assure you that if you buy those cameras, you're going to want to put native glass on it or native mount glass on it. And just the third-party lens support that Sony has, it's next to none. Sigma continually puts out amazing glass for the Sony E-mount system. Tamron consistently puts out amazing glass for the Sony E-mount system. You can see here that I have the Tamron 28-75 attached to this camera right now. And this lens sold like gangbusters. And right now you can probably get this lens for about $800, $650 if you buy it used. So you are looking at tremendous value in 2021 just by buying this camera and this lens together. And when you stack that up against the competition where Z-mount lenses are expensive, great lenses, great optically lenses, but they're expensive. And then RF glass, we know, if you are looking for cameras, you know that the RF glass for Canon, amazing, amazing glass. I'm not discrediting the quality of the glass, but the price of it, the price of the glass is just astronomical right now. And so just with the third party support of the lenses, you have Tamron, you have Sigma that's putting out amazing glass. And even if you wanted to get into the super budget realm of like Rokinon glass, there's a ton of options there. And even if you wanted to stay native to Sony, Sony has a lot of value 1.8 lenses in the 20 millimeter, the 50 millimeter, the 85 millimeter. All of those 1.8s, the 35 are great like mid-range budget lenses. And then if you have the money, the G Master lenses with the 50 and the 35, and I would still stack this 85 up against any 85. I know that it's old, I know that it's slow, I know that it's loud, but just the image that it produces is just amazing. I still stack this up. The 135, it's amazing glass. And so that is it. That is my long-term review of the A7 III. I would buy it. I would buy it. Again, there are times where I still think about buying a second one, but I did buy the A7C. And so you're not losing out on a lot. Those are my reasons. That's why I would buy it. And if you're asking me if I think that you should buy it, I absolutely do. I wouldn't even be one of those people who are like, I don't know, you have to tell me, you know, what you're planning on shooting. No, if you're thinking about buying it in 2021, go out and buy the A7 III. Anyway, if you guys are not subscribed to this channel, please do. If you like this video, please throw me a thumbs up. Leave a comment if you have any more questions. I literally answer every single comment that I get. Thank you guys for the 1,000 subscribers. We're just getting started here. I'm Jamil. This is a boy named Jamil, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.